Welcome to the Dr. Shawn Tierney Podcast. My name is Shawn Tierney, and I am a neuromusculoskeletal synologist. I treat athletes and high performers. My goal with this podcast is to help you make better decisions regarding your health, athleticism, and all aspects of life. Here, I'm both a student and a teacher. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome to the Dr. Shawn Tierney Podcast. This is Dr. Shawn Tierney here with one of my favorite athletes in the world, Zane Schweitzer. Zane is an outstanding individual. He's got a book that's written. He helps out his community. He works with kids. He's, 20 times world champion. I lost count a while ago, but there's a lot of in there. He can do things that almost nobody else can do on a surfboard or a paddleboard or a windsurfer or a kite surfer or a wing foiling or whatever. That just goes on. And I think it's just an ever expanding, ever searching, ever learning, open-hearted individual. So thank you for being here. Oh. I just want to know a little bit of your story. Everybody wants to know your story. How did you get to be who you are?
Oh man, well, what an intro. Thank you, Shawn. It's such an honor to share friendship with you. And I've known you since I was, a young teenager. So, I call you uncle at times, and be able to share, a relationship with you has been pivotal in my career. So I'm grateful to be on your podcast, and of course, to learn from you every chance I can get. Because, as an athlete, it's important to have an understanding of the mind, body, and spirit, because at the end of the day, we have to find that efficiency and that power and that strength and every little incremental gain we could get. And I feel like I've relied on you for that big time. And so, yeah, man, growing up in Maui, Hawaii, I'm a third generation professional waterman. My grandfather was the co-inventor of windsurfing, and my father, 18-time world champion windsurfer. And I feel fortunate just to have been surrounded by an amazing learning environment. Despite both my parents, my mom also was a national champion windsurfer, and but despite their competitive drive, they didn't push me to be a competitor per se. I really just wanted to follow in their footsteps. I loved seeing my dad's friends coming in and out of the house early in the morning before sunrise, and they're getting the boards and the boat ready to go surf giant waves. And, I always knew that I would be like that. And I've always gravitated towards those people. And, I have a brother who's 5 years older than me and a sister who's 3 years younger. And so naturally, I always wanted to chase around my older brother as well. And growing up, he was like a champion. He was one of the best in Hawaii for surfing, and all of his friends were leading charge. And so I had a lot of times where I could push that comfort zone and be comfortable in a place that I think normally a young kid wouldn't. And I try to continue doing that as an adult. I'm 30 years old now. I have a 1-year-old baby boy myself, and I feel really grateful to, as you mentioned, to continue to find ways to learn and improve. And, sometimes it's such a small little thing that can make a big difference in the way we control and manage our body and our energy and our stamina. And as you know, the world of water sports really demands a lot, and it's unpredictable. And so having a sharp mind along with body is so important.
And you started at a very young age. When you're a professional athlete starting at what age now?
So I was first went on the junior world tour at 12 years old, I believe. And we toured to South Korea, Japan, and Germany with Connor Baxter, who you're also very familiar with, one of my best friends. And so having that introduction at a young age, not only to what it takes to be a professional athlete, because we were taking it serious, even though we were young. We were having so much fun. We had a lot of amazing influences around us. Connor's dad is a world champion Hobie Cat sailor and really good friends with my father. So Keith would take us on these trips when we were unaccompanied minors. He would be our guide, our host, and, always encouraged us to hang out with other pros in the event, and other people in his circle that can push us to learn the course better, to learn the area, get climatized, and all these small tips and tricks of the trade that we kind of just grew up with in many ways. And, I feel super fortunate not only to have that experience as a competitor, but also in general to experience the world and its people. I mean, we got to go to over 55 countries in the last 18 years of competing on the world tour, and throughout the years had the chance to go into different sports as well. I started off in windsurfing, actually. So that was the first world tour when I was a young teenager that we followed. And then this new emerging sport of stand-up paddling emerged. And you've been a part of the stand-up paddle world for quite some time.
Yeah, I've been my sport, I guess, right now.
Totally. That's your sport, man. And that's how we got connected.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good people in this sport. And early on, the production of the first stand-up paddle boards started with Starboard. And that was, at that time, and still to this day, the company I ride for as an ambassador. They build windsurf boards, surfboards, stand-up paddle boards. And it was exciting because as a young, light kid being way under average weight and height than other athletes, we got to push the innovation curve, and that brought us ahead once there was a stage for competing in the sport. And so by the time there was a world tour in stand-up paddling, we were already had a lot of time on the board and paddling, and not to mention our previous experience crossover sports like outrigger canoe paddling, surfing, sailing. It all relates and can kind of prepare you in one way or another for the sport you're focusing on. And that it really shifted to stand-up paddle for a good, I want to say 12 to 15 years. We slowly shifted from full-on windsurf world tour and surfing for training and fun on the side to now we're juggling the windsurf tour and the stand-up paddle tour, and slowly shifting more priority and time and training and effort into stand-up. And for the right reasons, it was the fastest growing sport in the world. You saw that boom. It was amazing to be a part of that exciting time, and to see hundreds of people on the start line ready for war, running into the star. It was a exciting time. And that's where I met you at the Battle of the Paddle, I believe, in maybe 2008 or 2012. 2012.
Yeah.
And Dana Point, Battle of the Paddle, that was one of our most iconic events in the sport. And I got to meet you with Connor Baxter. And since then, we've done a lot of amazing things together, and also in the sport of stand-up and paddling across open ocean channels, and being able to feel like we're in the right hands when we're met with a life hurdle, whether it's trauma in one form or another, or mental stress, burning out from overtraining, and even to the times where I'm met with a more serious injury, like right now at this moment. I mean, I get to hang out with you again this time. It seems like it's always under unfortunate circumstances lately, but I just recently got into a boating accident, as you know, and I just couldn't feel more blessed to not only know you, but to trust your recommendations, and to know that as soon as I got discharged from the hospital after my boating accident, that I could fly straight to California and get a fast track to getting back to what I love to do. And unfortunately, I'm pretty used to operating at 110%. And so I'm just feel lucky to be alive right now, and beyond grateful to hear a second opinion from yourself after diagnosing the injury, assuring me that I'll have a full recovery. Just that mental healing process alone is going to help.
Oh, yeah. Well, you've been through a lot. I mean, this isn't the only thing, but I think that the interesting thing is how much grace you've gone through a lot. I mean, you fell off a cliff. I think we kind of busted your foot up pretty bad, had shoulders, multiple injuries, multiple places, but nothing terrible. But I think that your character has shown through all of that. And you have been able to reach out to help people heal in many, many ways. And I think part of being a great athlete is probably how you survive this. I mean, you're looking down at dolphins and a boat comes up on you, and you're able to at least protect yourself in some extent. I think most of us probably wouldn't have been able to move that fast and think that clearly, but thank God you were. So you're here today, and you're gonna be fine.
Yeah, man.
It's amazing, that you survived so much, and you heal really well, and you walk through everything with a unique grace, compassion for not only yourself but everybody around you. So I appreciate that. But in that regard, I mean, let's go back to like your first. What was the first traumatic thing that happened to you as far as the injuries? I think you've shown through a lot of these.
Yeah.
That you're a strong person that recovers well.
Well, the first traumatic injury I could think of, I didn't know you yet, but I've had a few pretty bad concussions growing up.
Right.
Fortunately, my worst concussion, I already knew you,
Mm-hmm.
and I got assistance and guidance from you. So with that said, I've had 3 major concussions in my life, 2 of them under the age of 12 years old. In a biking accident, and getting knocked unconscious, and as well playing a fun game of hide and go seek. Looking under the bridge, laying down on top of it, looking under for my friend who was on the underside, and flipped over. And so head trauma in many ways or another is my biggest concern when it comes to injuries. And I fell off a cliff when I was 17 years old. That was 30 feet tall after winning my junior world title in windsurfing. We were celebrating irresponsibly and on a sea cliff point at nighttime, and sure enough, we were hiking this shoreline cliff kind of hike, and full moon, beautiful evening, and I slipped off the cliff and fell off to what my friends and my brother thought was my death. And it took them a few minutes to get down to me. And when they did, they weren't too confident I'd be all right, because it was all rocks on the beach and a small patch of sand that my body happened to land in. And my brother performed CPR on me for what he said was 3 minutes. It's hard to imagine the time, or maybe reality, but he traded off with 2 other people. And so doing CPR for 3 minutes straight is tough. And he traded off with 2 others until I took my breath, and it felt like life was shot back into me. And I was looking up, and all my brother and my friends and fellow athletes were crying over my lifeless body. And it was a really surreal moment. I still remember it pretty clear. It's one of the few things I remember from the whole accident itself, is not really understanding what's going on, but looking up and seeing people I cared about crying over me, valuing my life. And I didn't know what was going on. It was weird, but I knew I had this weird feeling that I had a second chance, and I don't want to say a message from God, but like, it was pretty clear to me after processing it in that moment that I had an opportunity to live life again, and that I shouldn't be throwing away any opportunity to live my life to the fullest, but also to uplift those around me and to be there for others. And ever since that accident when I was 17 years old, it's been my driving purpose, in competition, in life, day to day, is how can I meet my goals Because, you know, being an athlete is selfish. It's a selfish choice for family, for friends, for loved ones, for responsibilities, for adulthood. And how can I continue to follow my dreams and goals while uplifting the environment around me, the people around me? And it's made it an exciting journey, to say the least. And it makes me feel like I'm living my life with purpose. And when training gets tough or when things are not going right, I always know that I could move to being there for others and feeling charged and feeling that's truly what I'm here to do, right? And for me, I'd like to believe that my competitive success and my results and the opportunities I create from this lifestyle I lead gives me a platform that allows others to have a bigger heart, open ears and open eyes to me and to the message, and being willing to be uplifted, you know. And at the end of the day, this society we live in, you know, not everybody wants to listen to a Joe Schmo or to even be around someone who's maybe not credible or a workaholic. And, you know, so for me, it's I think it's less of the competitive success. I am a competitor. I want to achieve more, but I know that with my success, it gives me the opportunity to be there for the kids in my community, to influence them further, to inspire them to follow a similar lifestyle, and one that is driven with the right intention.
That's amazing. And I think that's what I see too, because you do have this two sides. I mean, not maybe that was a life-changing point. My sense of it is that you've always been this very positive, very present person. I mean, you're very aware of everybody around you. And I think you're very conscious of being true, forthright, honest, open. I mean, you've been through a lot, but you carry it out in front of you. You know, it's for everybody to see, for everybody to learn from. So your process of dealing with people in your community has been, you know, a big part of your life. You know, cleaning up the ocean, you know, working with kids, teaching people. One of the most impressive things that I remember is a good friend of mine named Sean Tierney, a very, very respected doctor, who I'm honored to have call a friend. We had the opportunity to go surfing in San Onofre with you, and it was kind of a rough day. And we had another doctor along with us who wasn't as experienced, and she was having a hard time getting through the surf. And I was surfing, but you know, you stayed right with this doctor, and you were right next to her, and you were just encouraging her that everything is okay. The ocean's going to let you go when it's time to go, you know, and just get through that. And then this great man, this SEAL commander, the head of, you know, a leader in combat medicine, a leader in military medicine, a leader in PTSD. This great man is like, you know what? You can teach something to my daughter who needs help that I don't think I can teach her. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to send my daughter to you. Yeah, you know, you're young and you're a young fella. This is I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. So you were not that different in age than she was, but he knew that you had something that was special for her, and you did change your life. You know, like she came back a different person. You know, he said, I sent my daughter to you and your family. It was all a lot of love in your family, a lot of aloha in your family, and she came back a different person, and it changed her life. And I just one of the people that I know that you impacted, but I know that you have these clinics all the time. You're teaching people all the time. You're teaching kids all the time, and your heart is on your sleeve. And you wrote a book to help people as well. So why don't we go through with the community? You know, how did you start working with the community, and how did you transition to where you are now, and even with the trauma that happened in your local area?
Yeah, so I guess work with the kids and the community and the environment I guess, started in a way that was encouraged from my parents in many ways, but also, as you mentioned, kind of naturally was already there. Since I have a younger sister as well, I always tried to encourage my sister because I wanted to keep up with my brother. My sister being that much younger, it was harder for her to keep up. But then at about when we first went on the Junior World Tour, as we talked about, I was 12 years old. My mom packed me an extra suitcase with extra clothes, coloring books, crayons. She encouraged me to partner with her and Keith Baxter, lined up a kids clinic with some friends of theirs from Japan, Miki Hideki and Hideki-san. And we were able to get this really fun event after the Junior World Championship where families and kids that were there watching the windsurf event could actually learn how to windsurf and swim from some of the athletes. And Connor and I were kind of leading it as juniors, which was really fun. And I remember taking kids, you know, we were all thinking we're going to take them windsurfing, and a lot of these kids didn't swim. And so it's like, you know, kind of, we just played beach games. We got them comfortable around the water. A few kids, we got on the board to sail. And that's always been the highlight of my competitive journey. I don't remember one thing from that competition. Like, we were there for a competition.
Oh, yeah.
I look back at my memory, which, as you know, long-term is sometimes hard for me with my concussions. And the memories that stand out aren't the memories that stand out for me aren't necessarily the ones that are for myself. All the memories that I could recall, especially at a time that are tough to recall, are times that I've been able to be there for others, to uplift others, to contribute to something greater than myself. And so that was like a really cool experience, and I enjoyed it. And ever since then, we did the same thing. We just brought extra clothes and books, and then we started bringing extra boards and extra paddles and giving away gear. And I think one of the most impactful moments, not to have too long of a winded answer to this question, was in Peru. You know, we had the same trip of my injury, believe it or not. And this might have been a subconscious effect to the vision or the purpose, the newfound purpose I had post trauma. We arrived to Peru in a town called Lobitos. It was a very poverty-driven town, coastal, and we were mobbing through in this big old van with all these pro athletes, and it's decked out with all of our equipment. And I remember flying through this little town and locking eyes with a few kids, and there was two kids sitting against the wall, and they were facing away from the ocean, watching two other kids play kick the can with like a piece of trash, a bottle. And as we're going fast through this town, but it was weird. It was like that, almost like saw it in slow motion, where I caught my attention on these two kids.
Moment of clarity.
And they didn't look like, they didn't have that light in their eyes like a normal kid should have. You know, and I remember feeling this sense of, why am I here, able to follow my dreams, to know clearly what my dreams are, and to have these great opportunities to pursue them when there's kids like this, even in my community. But this was an impactful moment, a change of environment, a culture shock. And I saw these kids just sitting there with no excitement in their eyes, just watching a few friends play with what they could. Barely any clothes on their back. And that moment sticks with me because we held an amazing kids clinic after the event. And we got together all the athletes who were available to teach the kids how to swim. Almost none of the kids knew how to swim. It was crazy. Like, we took out the kids swimming, and to the point where it was like, okay, these kids might not drown. Let's, safely get them on a board in shallow water and push them in on some lures, give them the sensation like they're riding a wave, And what happened was profound because, of course, we shared a few hours with these kids, and it's not like we printed flyers and went around town and put out this invite for this official event. No, we literally were pulling kids off the streets and just dragging them to the beach, and no language barrier. We didn't speak Spanish at the time. Those kids didn't speak English. You know, we're playing the universal language of charades from one kid to another. And the next day after that kids clinic, the kids were playing on the beach. You know, a lot of them were just playing soccer on the beach from some toys that we were able to leave, you know, and others were playing in the shore break with boards that we left them. And I went back to that location years later, and it was really crazy because people in the town are wearing all the clothes we gave them years ago. And there's still people on the beach riding the boards we left them.
Oh, wow.
You know, and there was way more just families and kids on the beach than it was when we were there. And it kind of is like this weird perception of, you know what, it was always there for them.
He didn't know how to use it.
That boy wasn't facing the ocean when I passed him.
No.
And after that interaction, he probably looks at the ocean like it's the best playground. Open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You know, and to me, I feel like that when I look to the ocean. I look to the ocean and I immediately feel grounded, and I feel this overwhelming sense of excitement because every day there's something new and exciting on the water, no matter how much of an expert you are in your craft. And so that was probably the moment, if there was one, or accumulation of moments to make me really have that realization of the importance of philanthropy, or whatever you want to call it. I still don't necessarily like that term because it should come in a way that is organic. And I think we all have the opportunity to do heroic things every day. And it could be small things. It doesn't have to be something grand. And the repercussion of small actions can make a huge difference. And we all have that power of choice daily, you know? And so moving forward to where I am today in my life as a 30-year-old athlete, and feeling just beyond grateful to be alive today after my accident. Our community, I'm from Lahaina in Maui, and our community's always been so tight-knit. As I mentioned, I wouldn't be where I am today without the inspiration and the influence of the expert watermen and waterwomen in my community, not just my family, but all the amazing athletes with generational knowledge around the ocean. And in last year, in 2023, coming up on 1 year anniversary, actually, our whole hometown burned to the ground from a high wind storm. And it was a really weird thing, you know, especially because I was actually competing in a motocross and surf competition called Surfer Cross here in California. And we got the call from my wife that, you know, it's getting crazy and the wind's getting really strong. And the next call we get is the town's gone. Lahaina's gone. And that's the words that repeat in my head. Lahaina is gone. And I remember thinking with my brother, like, what do you mean Lahaina's gone? And we got home for search and rescue, really. We didn't know if our family was okay. Cell phone lines were down. There was no internet. We were fighting to get home to see if our family was okay, because all we knew was Lahaina was gone. And our whole family lives in Lahaina. And so it was a really wild moment, because my brother and I, being watermen, put on this emergency preparedness mindset. Instead of panicking and stressing in a way that's not going to benefit, my brother and I got focused. We made an action plan. We thought what would be the most useful contribution during this time. And we made our way home with communication devices like VHF radios and MREs, military long-lasting food, fire starting supplies, water filters, anything and everything that we thought could be an essential thing for our beloved community, our friends and family, knowing that, or not knowing the severity of it, but knowing it was severe. And we arrived to Maui and had to catch a boat because all the area is landlocked. You couldn't get in or out. Caught a boat into the area and our neighborhood of Kahana. And we were thankful to see our family on the beach there, and they were helping along with the whole community. And they were there helping one another, whether tending to burn victims or whether creating a human chain, passing supplies from boats to land to truck to delivery. You know, it was, we were fending for ourselves for a good 2 months. Food, water, gas, everything was coming from outer islands because we couldn't access anything from the island we were on. And so the sense of community came together in a way that was, in most disasters, speaking with FEMA and Red Cross, they don't see a sense of community resilience like they experienced in Lahaina. In Lahaina, we're Lahaina strong, even prior to this disaster. We're a community that's already values relationship, and that values our environment, and that values the sense of community and love thy neighbor. And if there's one clear lesson that I learned from the disaster, it's when times are hard, you have nothing but your neighbor, you know? And so you better hope that you have a good standing relationship with the people near to you. It's a really interesting thing because we didn't think we're surfers, we're competitors. You know how much that drives me. I didn't think about surfing for months. You know, the only thing I could think about, and it probably wasn't even clear, was providing some sort of safety and comfort for my loved ones. My wife's family lost their home with generational, 3 generations of family and 18 people displaced in my family. And every single person I know and love lost either their home, family life in the fire. And so it was, even though I directly wasn't affected, even though my house, which was just a few miles outside of the fire zone, wasn't affected, I felt survivor guilt in a way that really made me want to be there for the people in my community. And it's been a blur. We're already a year and it's like we haven't stopped, you know, and I've shifted my focus from supply distribution, managing communications for the supply that's being brought in, to then a more SAR kind of position, communicating with government officials and safety officials. And now I've shifted my focus for community resilience in Lahaina towards the kids, because I know how much the mental health is being affected for so many kids in our community. You know, they lost their schools, like, and when I say Lahaina's gone, like everything is burnt to the ground. Like the majority of residential homes is in Lahaina town for local families. So homes, majority of shopping centers and work sites, businesses in Lahaina, are main schools in Lahaina. So the elementary and the middle schools were lost, and the preschools. And even though it was a time that the parents were stressing on other things, I knew the kids had stress too.
Oh yeah.
And I felt that it was important to introduce a safe and friendly environment for the kids to just feel themselves. And so our first kids event after the fire was pretty immediate after the disaster. It was, I believe, 3 weekends after the disaster, we held our first kids event post-fire. Now we're coming up on 64, our 64th event, the last Sunday of this month since the fires. And we did consecutively, weekend after weekend, with I didn't imagine how successful it would be in the sense of families having relief, families coming, showing up, children smiling, laughing. And that's healing in itself for adults, for families, for parents, for anyone in our community, to see kids having fun.
Oh, yeah.
You know, during a time where they lost their home, they lost their pet, they lost some of their classmates, you know, and it's evolved so much more to what it was, because in 2009, we started these kids programs, but we were doing it like 4 times a year, you know, and it was very loose. It was fun. It was, let's inspire the kids to take on ocean sport. And in return, they're going to be better community members and guardians of this environment. Now our mission is focused around mental health. You know, like, how can we be able to provide programs consistently so the kids can look forward to something, for a safe place to learn and play, and connect all of our different activities to, you know, communication with one another and taking away from the stress and the trauma of it all. And I feel like that's been my place now and moving forward. It's always been my place in my community, but now I could truly feel like in one way or another, I could move on while still contributing, you know, because the first 6 months was full time, we were all wearing many hats.
And you had some smoke inhalation issues as well, correct?
Yeah. And I didn't realize how bad the environmental toxicity was. Like I said, we had no internet, we had no cell phone communication. We didn't know what was going on. Like, I was doing search and rescue in the burn zone for 3 days, you know, like with barely a freaking cloth COVID mask over my face and skin, you know, shorts, t-shirt, some rubber boots with no socks, you know, like, and mostly focusing on trying to recover my family's documents. You know, they're from the island of Kiribati, and so they're not citizens of the U.S., and so they needed their documents. And so I went in there trying to find their safe, and eventually found it, and it was melted, nothing found. And I definitely felt a little bit of my breathing being off. And we ended up getting, I think it was you or Paula Lenny, a contact from the mainland sent over glutathione.
Glutathione, yes.
And nebulizers. And, you know, we have these nebulizers and glutathione that showed up on a boat with like barely any expected estimated time of delivery. And all of a sudden we got this package with glutathione nebulizer. Okay, well, let's set up a first aid tent. And that was the start of like creating a community-based care center. You know, we pop a Costco pop-up tent with a plastic table. And is anybody a nurse? They don't know how to use this thing? Teaching one of us how to operate it. And then, okay, that's your job. You're going to sit in there all day and bring people in that had smoke exposure. And, you know, that turned into a much larger operation than, you know, I think in the end we had 10 different places that were doing nebulizing glutathione within our community.
That's great.
And, you know, it's really crazy because there's a lot going on in the world right now, all kind of crazy stuff happening. But I think we have to remember that that stuff isn't so far from us and from your family and from your neighbor. And remember how important it is to set yourself up for success in a time of, I don't want to say of need, but a time of priorities that are basic, you know, because basic priorities when line of communication is out is one big shit show.
Yeah, you've been through it, yeah.
And not to mention you add any other factor. And so it's important to know your neighbors. It's important to be able to understand an evacuation plan, you know, have an idea of take on the mindset of a waterman, which is be present in that moment, collect information around you with a hazard assessment plan or a boat plan, and execute it appropriately, all while focusing on efficiency, right? Because it's a long run when you're come across a problem, whether it's an injury, a disaster, whatever. And now we've moved past the burns. We've moved past, I don't want to say move past, but the burns have healed. But our minds are still
traumatized. Yeah.
And
you don't forget that kind of a situation.
Yeah.
But you're there to heal people.
We try, and you're there to hear people. And today I'm glad I don't have a droopy left side of my face, because we did a stellate ganglion block on the vagus nerve.
Yeah.
And the sense of relief is astonishing, and the sense of presence and mindfulness, that is some of the things that I feel initially. But I'm glad I don't have a droopy face. We've had a few hours to kind of
just let it drift away a little bit. Yeah, that's good. It's good to have that. Now, moving forward with your life, there's this athletic side, and now it's almost like you're a community leader. What do you want to do with that community leadership? Didn't you win an award or a community award for all the work you did? I think you were even on national TV once or twice just because of this stuff, correct?
It wasn't necessarily an award for any one individual specifically, but I was selected as a community representative to receive the award, along with a few other influential community leaders that were able to contribute in a time of need. And it was a huge honor. It's the Muhammad Ali Humanitarian Award, put on by ESPN's the EPSI Awards. And I felt this overwhelming sense of, do I deserve that? There's the identity and the reality of a hero in today's society is wild. We always relate heroic things to someone or something, but really I see heroism as less than an identity, but more of an action. We can all be a hero, and there were people that were a hell of a lot more heroic than me, who literally saved lives, pulling people out of the fires. I wasn't there for the fire. I was lost, feeling like, I don't know. And I got there, and when I did, I helped. And that was all I could do. And I was so grateful to know that our community has light on it, because that's what's important. We received the humanitarian award, and it brings light back to Lahaina's situation. And that hopefully will continue its healing process, not just physically and mentally, but, as well for our housing crisis. And, it's moving forward in my life. To answer your question, I really want to continue to grow our kids' foundation in the right direction. Our foundation is called the Kaha Kukahi Ocean Academy, or the First Rising Breath. And the Kaha Kukahi Ocean Academy, our mission is to inspire ocean immersion programs and as mentorship through sport and through these events that we host, which we call Ocean Academies. And essentially, we bring together leaders of our community in different fields to host arts and crafts, beach cleanups, swimming, sailing, surfing, paddling. And we get them to rotate through these different workshops, all while learning CPR, first aid, how to swim safely, how to make a hazard assessment plan, how to self-assess yourself, how to control your breath and utilize that as a tool when your emotions are off, when you're not feeling right.
And what do you do for that? What's your tool that you use to control your breath?
Yeah, so something that I always like to do personally is I have a breathing pattern, and it could be a little different for you, but a good intro to it would be maybe a 2 to 4 second inhale, deep to the belly, full diaphragm, and a long exhale. And usually twice as long of an exhale is something that I would like to share with the kids. So if we do a 2-second inhale, we'll do a 4-second exhale, and try and get them to place their hand over their heart and their hand over their belly and actually hear their heart rate and see if they could consciously slow it down. Feel if they're even breathing efficiently to their belly and up to the chest. And it's amazing how many kids get this feeling, oh, okay, cool. I do feel different. You know, at the end of it, it's this mind shift. And at the end of the day, a lot of people struggle with addiction over a temporary mind shift. And we all have that opportunity for mind shift with our power of breath. And so, you know, moving forward in my life, of course I want to continue to be a world-class athlete, you know, and you're giving me the tools to get back to 110% and have that confidence to get back in competition. And so I definitely am really passionate right now about big wave surfing and hydrofoiling. I've been getting more into the hydrofoil world tour lately. And I see that as the next growing industry, and also something that's in line with my passion in the ocean for innovation and evolution. And it's just exciting. But hand in hand comes that purpose for the children and giving them the opportunity that I had. And really at the end of the day, that's what it is. You know, I could be folding towels and making mixed drinks on West Maui right now. And because of my influence around me growing up, I saw that there was something exciting that was fulfilling, that could provide opportunity. And I had to continue to make that choice to follow that direction all through my schooling and even adult years, and even as a husband and a father. You know, it's a daily choice to make, to feed your soul, to feed your spirit and your mind and your heart's desires, while also keeping balance of, like, you can't totally abandon reality, but you know, it's important.
Reality. Yeah, it is reality. Yeah, I think you've done a lot with your life, and you also have a book you've written too, correct?
Yeah, Beneath the Surface.
Beneath the Surface. Now, who needs to read your book? Let's go through that. That's
a really good question. You know, I've had a lot of different people say that the book is great for every school. Every school should have Beneath the Surface. I've had teachers tell me that and say how important it is for kids to get this outlook on a young professional with purpose, and lining purpose with intention and action. And so my whole book was around the time of my grandmother's passing. My grandmother, Carolyn, was my biggest life coach, and she was a psychologist and a amazing woman that understood the mind, body, spirit relationship, and also just the base relationship of people. And she taught me from a very young age how to manifest, how to visualize, the importance of journaling, to practice gratitude. And in many ways, when she was on hospice, we wrote this book together. It was a last project and fun thing with my grandma. You know, she inspired me to start journaling, and I had a bookshelf of journals, and I started going to her bed and we would, look, Grandma, look what you inspired me to do. I have books filled with my experiences with the world and its people. And she looked at me and she said, Zane, promise me you'll share these experiences with the world. And I'm like, let's do it right now. And we literally just started circling pages in my journals, handwritten journal pages from when I was 10 years old to a world champion athlete. And there was a lot of unique things that I never knew I could do in my life through that process. Patience, resilience toward a single yet simple goal. But more importantly, continuing to chip away at something, knowing there's a timeline. And that timeline was my grandmother's life. And I wanted to be able to present something to her before she passed. And that was my goal. Like, I wanted to, even if it was a few papers stapled together, roughly written, like, and it ended up being that case. It was it was a pretty close draft submission that she got to read and help me with, and she in many ways is the reason that book is here, and I got to learn so much through the process. I've had a lot of head trauma myself, and so it really reinstilled the lessons that I already do, but the importance of reviewing them, because oftentimes I write, it's just autonomous. I write daily for gratitude, for presence, for visualization, and I put it away.
So at the end of the day, you kind of write down like what you're grateful for, what you did good, what you could have done better.
In the morning, I write my gratitude and my intentions for the day and an affirmation. And then in the evening, I write how I could have made the day better and some highlights of the day. Super simple. You know, my grandmother seemed to have created this thing that's now viral sensation on any journal you could buy, right? I mean, it's a pretty thing. You hear it a lot if you're aware of journaling,
right,
you know?
Right.
And I got to have those tools in my toolkit since before I was even a professional athlete, let alone an adult. And I was forever grateful for that. That's a gift that my grandma continues to leave with me daily. So for those that are interested in setting goals and manifesting your own wave of success, you could pick up Beneath the Surface on Amazon or my website. And, you know, it's there's a lot of reoccurring lessons in there, but the baseline theme is how, you know, your power of choice and how you pursue your personal goals can create an effect on the people and the environment around you, and will create an effect on the people and the environment around you. And if you have an intention for your daily choices, which may be selfish, and I say selfish in the most pure way, it could also be selfless. And balancing that, I think, is in the end, it's good to make sure the helmet fits. It's good for humility and for your overall sense of balance and purpose.
That's amazing work. And I mean, you've helped a lot of people. Have you had some feedback? Have people come to you and said, hey, this was a change for me?
Yeah.
What, do you have a story you could share?
You know, a few of them, one that pops into my mind randomly is a small little nib that I have learned to utilize from my coaches in my career as a professional athlete. And it's something called mindful tapping. And it's essentially pressure points that you go throughout your body in order to activate something. I don't know the science behind it too much, but learning it and practicing it, I know it's real. You know, there's a sequence of pressure points you tap as you do your meditational and visualization practice. And in many ways, it's like getting the ball rolling on that task or that end goal without physically doing anything. And oftentimes the hardest part about anything is just starting, getting the momentum going, you know. And I had a lady in Oregon, I was doing a presentation on my book, and one of the activities we talked about from the book was, you know, someone talked about give us a mindful tapping exercise, and we went through it. And years later, this woman reached back out to me from Bend, Oregon, and she said, I can't tell you how much of a journey you sent me on. I've done mindful tapping seminars all over, and it's changed my life, and I've shared it with other people, and you know, and I'm thinking, oh geez, I'm no one to be teaching this. Like,
you brought the initial information, so you brought it forward for her.
Yeah, and now she's the expert in it, you know, and knows way more than I did. And I don't want to be the one to say I'm a certified mindful. No way. Someone asked what tools did I use to help with my success, and to my best abilities, I shared that. And journaling, mindfulness, mindful tapping. It's just a few things, you know, in the arsenal of a balanced athlete. And I think you read books on athletes, and you could see it's not just about being physically talented. It's not just about being genetically talented. there is something going on that we don't understand fully from a science background. And you know, at the end of the day, even if it's just placebo, I'm a superstitious person, and I'm gonna try and get that little edge sharp as much as I can.
I guess there's that feeling that everybody's looking for, where you're just at one with the athletic, with the sport, or maybe some people call it that flow state.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that can transition. And I think for you, I see it as a transition. You're very, very present. So it doesn't matter if you're competing, or if you're talking to me, or if you're talking to, you know, someone you don't even know that you see is down. It's like you're 100%. You're 100% there, and you're kind of in this. Am I appropriate in this state? You know, and I think that's something that I think of myself. I always am asking myself, am I in the right place, at the right time, doing the right thing, in the right way for everybody involved? And I see you as a person who's, maybe you had those thoughts, exact thoughts, but you're there. It's automatic in you. You're like, the lights are on. The lights are on. It doesn't matter if it's the cashier. Doesn't matter if it's a little girl. Doesn't matter if it's a homeless person on the street. The lights are on, and you're there, and you're ready to help. And I think part of that probably comes from there's a thing I heard. Life is a series of adventures coming out from a stable base, and I think you had a very loving family, a very stable base, and that enabled you to reach out. You know, even when they studied, heroic officers in World War II, the biggest thing that wasn't that they were smarter, wasn't they were better, is that they had a stable base. They had a good mother. They felt secure and loved in their own home, so they were able to reach out and help other people, and help other people feel secure and loved, whether it's their fellow soldiers or fellow or other people that they're dealing with in the community of a wartime situation. But I think that you've basically been through a little bit of a wartime situation. Maybe it's not war, but it's a trauma that affected your community in a similar way. And I think that you were able to step up because you came from a stable base, and you are an adventurer. You know, you go out and you give 100% at everything you do, and you just show up. So that's a great honor to see. Great honor to see you, grow and expand that. And I just can't imagine what you're going to do to help your community and your environment. But I think that carrying that intelligence, that wisdom of community, the wisdom of being present for people, being aware of somebody's, when somebody comes in and they're in trouble, you see it, you're with them, you're responding appropriately. That's unique.
It's also the mindset of a waterman, though.
Yeah.
I mean, you know that very well. You know, when we step into the ocean, it's an unfamiliar environment. You know, it's somewhere that's ever changing. It's predictable yet unpredictable. You know, and so for us to collect information in a short amount of time and respond in a way where we ask those questions: am I in the right place? Am I doing the right thing? And is my positioning going to affect someone else? You know, those are all, I think, important lessons. And, I just super grateful to be able to, I feel like my life has kind of presented me this opportunity, this accumulation of experiences to lead to something is going to become the most proud moment of my life. And I think it has to do with raising a son in a community that I know will never be the same that I knew. You know, my son won't grow up in the same Lahaina that I knew, going to the same schools, but I know that the actions I do now are going to influence his understanding of home and that whole generation. And how could we deprive them of something that wasn't anything close to what it truly was, which Lahaina isn't just a special place. It's the people that make the place special. It's the stories. It's the significance of all these places and the people that have resided there. And, we're building out an ocean academy for Kahakukahi. And I think this is going to be that moment for me to truly feel that my career as a professional athlete has given me an opportunity to leave a legacy behind that will have a more focused and long living legacy, even beyond my lifetime. And, when I had my near-death experience a few days ago after getting run over by the boat and catching it straight onto the face and pushing off the bottom to just get deep enough for not a fatal hit by the engine, yet still get propped down my back and pulled by the swim shorts and dragged. And I thought I was dead there. And one of the first things I could think about was my responsibility that I let down, because we have so many opportunities happening for Kahakukahi Ocean Academy for the kids of Lahaina, where the mayor and government officials and Maui Land and Pine and Maui County and all these huge entities that are powerful in our community, they want to see success for the kids. They're focusing on mental health. They want to utilize space for the community to provide programs that are missing. And by the grace of God, Kahakukahi is being recognized and accepted by our community for being there since 2009, but really for being there since the fires, consistently hosting programs week after week. And, our goal is to have an ocean academy where kids can come and have therapists to talk through things, coaches to learn and to excel, crafts to practice on, and all right there every day. And I look back on my childhood, man, I want that. That sounds rad. I pretty much did have that.
You did have
but
that, yeah.
Not like with this
community,
official physical place, And I look at Australia, they have that with surf life rescue clubs and the nippers programs for the kid. And that was my big inspiration, traveling to Australia and New Zealand and seeing that. And how could Hawaii, being the state sport of surfing and paddling, not put more into kids getting involved in safe swimming? We have the second highest drowning rate in the whole country of the USA in Hawaii. And after a disaster like we experienced, our roads are right along the ocean, and people chose to burn in their car rather than not take their chances swimming in the ocean. That's how many people in our community don't swim.
Wow.
And don't have that confidence in that environment, that they would rather take their chances in the fire. And there's hundreds of people who saved their life by just getting in the water, and so that's why, to me, this is relevant. We live on an island. No matter what disaster we face in the future, the more people that understand emergency preparedness and how to navigate their environment, the better, And so it's you asked the question, what do you see yourself moving forward? And, I'm going to feel more pride in the Kahakukahi Ocean Academy and the legacy I could leave behind for my community and for my son, because I'm raising that boy and my life has changed in a whole way I could never imagine. And I'm still motivated and driven to push myself and to be a competitor, and to pursue big wave surfing, because that's, to me, where I feel most challenged in the ocean. And if we could be able to get more people appreciating the ocean environment and appreciating each other, I think the world would be a much better place.
I agree. Well, it's certainly been an honor. We've covered a lot. I really appreciate it. And we're going to do this again.
Yeah.
But thank you very much, Zane.
Dr. Shawn Tierney and your partner, Sandra.
Yeah.
Just so grateful for your friendship, for your shared experience, and for getting me back on track for this healing journey. And
just so we have everybody, how do people get a hold of you? How do they reach you? Just get the word out.
Yeah.
There's a few things. There's a family thing. There's the Ocean Academy. So let's go through those. So
if you want to check out and follow my personal career as an athlete, you can check out zaneschweitzer.com, ZaneSchweitzer. Our foundation for kids and community resilience efforts is Kahakukahi. That's KAHAKUKAHI. Kahakukahi Foundation.com. And I hope to also have some of your guests join us at our surf camp in Maui.
Absolutely.
You stayed there with your wife.
It's beautiful. You know,
Yeah.
there's no better place that I know of. Yeah.
Yeah, we run Maui Sports Adventure Surf Camp in West Maui, and that's something we love to share.
You get to stay at a great location, and you get to hang out with this guy and his family of watermen, and they have equipment. They have anything that you want to experience in Maui. You can do it with the most aloha that I could ever imagine. So,
yeah, thank you, Shawn.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it.
All right, very good.